All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to really get into business continuity.
Absolutely.
We're going to focus on Clause 6 of the ISO 22301 standard.
Yeah.
We're calling this the planning section. And, when you hear planning, you might think, well, yeah, of course you plan. But with ISO 22301, it's not just about, winging it or, just having a vague idea. This is really foundational. This is, the core of how an organization builds resilience.
Right. Really. This is the bedrock. Like you say, you think planning, you think, well, I kind of already do that. This is about taking all those things that are maybe in your head, maybe are a little scattered, and really formalizing them in a way that's going to make your organization truly resilient.
Right. So it's not wishful thinking when it comes to, oh, what if this happened? What if that happened? It's like, okay, we're going to figure this out. What could knock us off course? What do we absolutely need to keep running no matter what? And how do we make sure this whole approach, this whole system stays stays relevant as our organization changes?
Yeah, because that's a big thing, right? A lot of times we put plans in place and then we kind of forget about them.
Right.
This is something that you've got to constantly be thinking about, constantly updating.
Okay, so we're going to break down the three parts of Clause 6 and give you, hopefully, a really clear roadmap for actually doing this, for effective business continuity planning.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's get started with 6.1,
Right.
which is actions to address risks and opportunities.
Yeah.
I think this is really where it stops being reactive and starts being proactive.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like looking ahead instead of just cleaning up afterwards.
Absolutely. You're not just playing catch up, right? And this section has two big parts to it. So the first part is determining the risks and opportunities related to your business continuity. And when we talk about risks, what we're really focusing on are those potential disruptions. Now, if you go back to Clause 3 of ISO 22301, it gives a good definition of what a disruption is. Any incident, whether you're expecting it or not, that causes a problem, basically, that, basically throws a negative curveball at your ability to do what you normally do to deliver your products and services to meet your objectives.
So, we could be talking about a cyber attack that takes out all your systems.
Yeah.
We could be talking about a supplier that suddenly goes out of business. We could be talking about, a huge snowstorm, whatever it is that's going to really, throw you off.
Yeah, any of those things. A pandemic, who knows?
Yeah, right, exactly. But, the interesting part here to me is it talks about opportunities. So what kind of opportunities are we even talking about when it comes to, all these, negative things?
Yeah, that's a great question. Because it's not just about identifying the bad things that can happen. It's also about how can we, maybe there's a silver lining here, how can we take advantage of this in a way that's going to make us even better?
Right.
So opportunities could be, finding a more efficient way to do something. Maybe there's a process that you've been doing a certain way, and this forces you to rethink it. It could be that you find ways to make yourself more resilient, not just getting back to normal, but exceeding where you were before. Or maybe this disruption is a chance to really stand out to your customers.
Oh, interesting.
By showing how effectively you manage it. So it's not just about putting out fires. It's also about, maybe there's a chance to improve here.
Yeah, it's a really different way to think about it, actually.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, so we've done the analysis. We've said, here are the risks. Here's the bad stuff that could happen. But here are also maybe some opportunities. Here are some things we could use this as a chance to get better. What's the next step?
So that takes us to the second part of 6.1, which is addressing those risks and opportunities.
Yeah.
You've identified them. Now what are you going to do about it?
Right.
So this means putting plans in place, processes in place to reduce how likely those risks are or reduce how bad they'll be if they do happen, and then actually going after those opportunities to make yourself stronger.
So, a classic example would be, okay, we've identified that a power outage is a huge risk. What do? We get a backup generator, we come up with processes, we train our staff. That's addressing the risk.
Exactly.
Or we found this new cloud-based solution that's going to, totally improve our recovery time for our data, so let's actually implement that.
Yeah, and this is doing the work. This is where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
So 6.1 is setting the stage to be proactive, to understand where you're weak, where you're strong, and then making choices to really bolster your ability to handle anything.
Okay, I like it. So now we've got a handle on, we've identified, we're addressing, we're being proactive. Now let's move on to 6.2.
Okay.
Which is business continuity objectives and planning to achieve them.
Yeah.
It seems like this is where we go from what could happen, what are we going to do about it, to like, what are we even aiming for?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
It's like, okay, we want to be resilient, but what does that actually mean for you?
Right.
What does that look like in real life?
Right.
So 6.2 starts off with establishing business continuity objectives. And this is where we get specific, right? This is where we get into the SMART goals. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Yeah, so it's not enough to say we want to minimize downtime. It's more like, okay, we will recover our customer service systems within 4 hours of an outage, or we're going to keep, at least 75% of our production capacity going if something happens to our main manufacturing facility.
Exactly. And it has to be tied into your overall business goals.
Right.
It can't just be this thing that's separate.
Right. It's got to be like, if you're trying to expand into a new market, then a big part of your business continuity objective might be to make sure that, like, if something happens, it doesn't totally derail that plan or hurt your reputation.
Exactly.
So everything's kind of connected.
Yeah.
So we've established these objectives.
Okay.
Now what?
Now we plan to achieve them, right? We got to figure out how we're going to get there.
Right.
So that's the second part of 6.2, which is it doesn't lay out a super specific process, but it's kind of implied. It's like you have these goals, now figure out how you're going to make them happen, what needs to happen, who's responsible, what resources do you need.
So, like, for each of those objectives that we just talked about, you need a plan.
Yeah.
So if you said, okay, 4 hours to get customer service back up, well, how are you going to do that? Yeah. You need the procedures, you need the people, you need the backup equipment, you need to test it.
Yeah, you got to think it all through.
Right. So it's like taking those big picture goals and like making them actually happen.
Exactly. And this is where you start to think about, okay, what were those risks that we identified and how does that play into this? What did we learn from our business impact analysis? All of that comes together here. So 6.2 is really about, why are we doing this? And what's the big picture of how we're going to get there?
Yeah. So it's setting those targets, making sure they're connected to your business, and actually making a plan. It's not just like hoping for the best.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've addressed risks and opportunities. We've set objectives and like figured out how we're going to achieve them. That brings us to the last piece of Clause 6, which is 6.3, planning changes to the business continuity management system.
Yeah.
I think this is important because, things change.
Oh, yeah.
Things are always changing.
All the time.
So this is acknowledging that this isn't like you make a plan and then it's done.
Yeah, this is not a set it and forget it kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
Organizations are always changing. New technology, new markets, new regulations. So this part is about saying, look, you got to think ahead about how those changes are going to affect your ability to keep things running smoothly.
So it could be something like, your IT department rolls out a whole new set of software.
Yep.
Or, your supply chain suddenly becomes way more global.
Right.
Or some new data privacy law comes out. Like, all of this stuff could totally change how resilient you are.
Yeah, or even just the way you do business, right?
Right.
Maybe you decide to go totally remote.
Right. So it's basically saying, don't just react. Think about this stuff.
Absolutely. You got to have a process to review and update your plan as things change.
Yeah. So you might have to go back and look at your risk assessment. Does it still apply?
Totally.
Do the same things matter?
Yeah. You
probably have to update all your procedures.
Right.
And you got to make sure everybody knows what those new procedures are.
Yeah. Communication is key.
Right. So it's like future-proofing. You're not just planning for what you know about now. You're planning for like what you don't even know about yet.
Yeah. And that's hard, right?
Yeah, it's hard, but it's important.
It is. But if you don't, your whole system becomes outdated.
Right.
And then it's not going to help you when you need it. So 6.3, make sure that your business continuity efforts stay relevant and they actually work.
Yeah, it's like you have a plan, but you also have a plan for when the plan needs to change.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so to bring it all together, this whole planning section, this Clause 6 of ISO 22301, it's really focused on these three things that we talked about. One is, being proactive, looking for the risks and the opportunities.
Right.
2 is, setting those objectives and figuring out how you're going to achieve them. And 3 is, having a way to deal with change.
Yeah, you got to be flexible.
Right. So now that you've listened to this whole thing, think about your own organization. Are you doing all this? Are you really looking for those risks and opportunities? Do you have those super clear objectives?
Are they actually tied to your business goals?
Right. And do you have a way to change things when they need to be changed? Like, those are the big questions that this standard is making you think about.
Yeah, and I think, take a look at the full standard. It's really worth it.
Yeah.
It'll give you that complete picture.
And I think the main takeaway here is that when you do this, when you actually plan for, bad things happening, it's not just that you're, like, preventing bad things. You might actually find, like, hidden strengths, new ways of doing things that you didn't even realize were possible.
Yeah, you're building a stronger organization.
Right.
Not just protecting yourself.
Right, exactly. So it's an investment
It is.
in your future.
Absolutely.
All right, well, thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We hope you join us next time.